Don't forget the baby's milk. Amina's voice rang through the smoky kitchen as she stirred porridge with one hand and cradled their crying daughter with the other. But Musa didn't answer. The front door slammed so hard it rattled the weak window panes. Amina paused, her stirring hand frozen midair. She waited for the sound of the engine starting, praying he would come back even if just to kiss the children goodbye. But when the car pulled away, clean and smooth like a snake sliding off a stone, her heart told her what her mind refused to believe. Musa was gone. He hadn't said a word that morning. Just ironed his best shirt, sprayed cologne he barely wore, and packed his torn leather bag with hands that shook slightly. He kissed the air beside her cheek like a stranger and said, "I'll be back late." Then left. But Amina knew. Deep down, she knew. It all started 3 months earlier when Musa, a simple matatu driver with no secondary education, got a shocking opportunity to work as the personal driver of one of the most powerful female politicians in the country. Honorable Celine Niang, the woman who ran districts like empires. Men bowed when she passed. Rumors said even ministers feared her tongue. At first, Amina was proud. She ironed Musa's uniform like it was gold. She woke early to pack his food in neat containers. She even fasted and prayed for his protection, knowing powerful people came with powerful temptations. But power is seductive, and loneliness is deadly. Honorable Celine was beautiful in a dangerous way. Her perfume announced her before her footsteps did. She laughed deeply, touched Musa's shoulder when she thanked him, and always asked, "Is your wife treating you well?" with eyes that said more than her words. It started with late nights. Then emergency out-of-town trips. Then Musa stopped coming home on weekends. When Amina asked questions, he responded with silence. His phone was always off. His tone was different. Softer with strangers, colder with her. Then came the day he never returned. That night it rained as if the sky itself was mourning. Amina sat by the window holding their baby, watching the road where his car had vanished. The small rented house felt bigger without him. Colder. Hungrier. Within weeks, she was forced to sell their small TV for rent. Then her wedding ring for food. When the landlord threw them out, she begged for mercy with tears in her eyes and a child on her hip. He didn't care. They slept outside a locked shop that night, the baby coughing through the cold, her son shivering under her wrapper. Musa, meanwhile, was living a different life. Soft beds, warm showers, buffets and champagne. Honorable Celine gave him everything. Clothes, money, a room in her mansion. He wore perfume worth more than Amina made in a month. She took him to fancy hotels, introduced him as her confidant, whispered into his ears during political meetings, and once even flew him to Zanzibar in a helicopter just for fresh air. He didn't call home. He told himself they would be fine. But behind Celine's glittering smile was a darkness he didn't notice until it was too late. One day he accidentally walked into her private study while looking for her charger. Behind a velvet curtain he found a small shrine. Candles. Animal bones. A red cloth stained with something dry and brown. And right in the middle, a photo of himself, folded and pierced through the chest with a rusty nail. He gasped. His knees wobbled. From that day his life changed. His health began to collapse. First a dry cough, then itchy skin, then boils on his back. His appetite vanished. He lost weight quickly and nightmares haunted him nightly. Celine changed too. Cold, distant. She stopped inviting him to her room. Stopped smiling. One morning she told him, "You've become too dull. Go rest at your home for a while." But he had no home anymore. When he asked for help, she blocked him, cut him off. Just like that, he became a shadow. He was found 3 weeks later, collapsed outside a roadside kiosk, barely breathing. No ID, no money, dirty clothes. No one recognized him. A boda rider rushed him to a public hospital. The nurses left him lying on a bench, too busy to care about another dying man. He lay there for hours, flies buzzing over his lips, his eyes wide open, tears rolling silently down the side of his face. Regret gnawed at him like a disease. Not a single soul came to see him. He whispered his children's names like a prayer. He remembered how his son used to climb onto his shoulders, how his daughter used to sleep on his chest. He had thrown it all away for comfort, for power, for a woman who didn't even blink before dumping him. Then suddenly he heard a familiar voice. Calm, strong, full of command. Put this man on oxygen. Immediately, he opened his eyes slowly, tried to focus. That face, That voice. It couldn't be. The young doctor leaned closer, and for the first time in years, Musa felt shame so deep it choked him, because standing over him was his own son, and the boy didn't smile. For a full minute, Musa forgot how to breathe. The boy standing over him wore a white coat, a stethoscope around his neck, and gloves on his hands, but it was the eyes. Those eyes, wide, intense, filled with the weight of 1,000 memories. They stared at him like fire and ice at the same time. Musa opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The boy didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. "Prepare the 4," he ordered the nurse beside him, "and test for organ failure." Still, no one in that room knew the truth. No one else knew that the dying man wheezing on the stretcher was the father this boy once prayed for, cried for, waited for, and finally gave up on. But Musa knew. His shame clung to his chest heavier than the illness. He watched the young man move around the ward, confident, respected, skilled. A real doctor. How? When? He remembered the last time he'd seen him. The boy was in primary school, barely tall enough to ride a bicycle. He used to sit cross-legged by the door, waiting for his father to come home. That boy had slept hungry, slept cold, slept outside. And now he was the one trying to save the father who never stayed. Musa couldn't stop the tears. The doctor finished his orders and finally turned to him. Slowly, deliberately, their eyes locked. The silence stretched like a funeral hymn. "Do you know who I am?" the boy asked, his voice flat. Musa tried to speak, but his throat was dry. His chest burned. He nodded slowly. The boy exhaled, stepped back, and walked out without another word. Musa wept. Not from the pain in his body, but from the avalanche of guilt. He remembered every lie he told, every night he didn't come home, every morning Amina called and he ignored her. And now he was lying on a metal hospital bed that creaked every time he moved, his body eating itself alive, and his own son couldn't even look at him without clenching his jaw. That night, Musa barely slept. The pain was bad, but the thoughts were worse. He wondered how Amina was. Was she alive? Did she remarry? Did she ever curse his name while washing clothes in the cold? He stared at the ceiling until morning. The next day, the young doctor returned. No greeting, just business. "Your kidneys are failing," he said. "Your lungs are weak. Your immune system is shutting down." Musa coughed and nodded. I don't deserve anything. But thank you," he whispered. The doctor didn't reply. He just scribbled on his clipboard, then paused. "My name is Ibra," he said without looking up. "You named me after your uncle." Musa felt like the ceiling had fallen on him. "Ibra? Yes. That was his boy. His son. I used to wait for you," the boy said quietly. "Every Sunday. I thought maybe you can take us to the park. I told my sister to wear her best dress. She waited too." Musa's lips trembled. "Ibra. I'm so sorry." The young doctor looked at him then finally, and in his eyes there was no hate, just distance. "My mother," he said slowly, "never said a single bad word about you. Not once. She told us to respect you, even in your absence. She said, God sees everything." Musa wept again, loud this time. "I thought you'd be living in a mansion," he choked. "You were supposed to be safe." Ibra nodded. "We weren't. We slept in people's shops, sometimes under bridges. But she made sure we never begged." Musa closed his eyes. The pain in his chest twisted. Not physical, emotional. Regret had turned his blood into acid. "She took casual jobs," Ibra continued. "Washing toilets, cleaning offices. She never complained. When I got into university, she sold her last mattress so I wouldn't miss registration." Musa shook his head violently, tears soaking his pillow. "I don't expect you to live long," Ibra said softly. "But I will do everything I can to make sure you don't die in pain. Not because you were a good father, but because my mother raised me to be good, even when people didn't deserve it." He turned and walked away. And Musa, left alone in that cold hospital bed, knew he had lost everything. Not because of poverty, but because of choice. When Musa left, the world didn't pause for Amina. Life didn't ask if she was ready. It simply pushed her hard and fast into a storm she had never imagined. The landlord had knocked on the door just 2 weeks after Musa disappeared. No rent. No house. Amina pleaded. She begged him to wait just a little longer. She even showed him the messages she had sent Musa unread. But the man wasn't moved. That night, she sat in the dark with two hungry children, feeding them boiled water to calm their stomachs, telling them bedtime stories she could barely finish through tears. She left that house the next day with nothing but a polythene bag of baby clothes, her son's schoolbook, and her own cracked sandals. They walked and walked, past city lights that mocked them, past houses they once dreamed of, past memories that stung like pepper in the eyes. They ended up behind a petrol station, sleeping on flattened cardboard boxes under a broken streetlight. The baby cried all night. Her son clung to her arm and whispered, "Is Baba coming tomorrow?" She couldn't answer. But deep in her soul, something broke that night. And from the pieces, a new woman was born. Amina didn't beg. She worked. She woke before sunrise, strapped her baby on her back, and went door to door asking if anyone needed cleaning. Most slammed the door in her face. Some laughed. But one woman, a teacher, gave her a chance. She cleaned that woman's house so well word spread. Within a month, Amina was washing clothes for 5 families. She barely made enough for food, but she saved every coin. She never touched Musa's name again. She scrubbed it from her memory like dirt from a stained shirt. Every night, when her children slept beside her on a torn mattress in a shared room with a leaking roof, she whispered prayers. Prayers of strength. Prayers of survival. Prayers that God would turn her tears into something useful. The turning point came 1 year later. She had just finished mopping an office building when the manager stopped her. "You clean well," he said. "Do you have children?" "Yes, sir." "Do they go to school?" "Not yet." The man nodded. He gave her an envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation. He helped her enroll her son Ibra in a public school nearby. He even gave her transport money. Amina cried for hours that night. Not from sadness but from hope. Ibra turned out to be brilliant. He topped his class in every exam. Teachers called Amina to praise him, saying he had a mind bigger than this world. He studied under candlelight, with rain leaking beside his books. He never missed school even when he had no shoes. And Amina made sure of that. She sold everything, her clothes, her earrings, her dignity if necessary, just to keep her children in school. When her daughter started school, she bought second-hand uniforms and patched them with love. Her hands were always rough. Her back always ached. But her heart was fire. Years passed. They moved into a small house with a real door and a toilet that flushed. Amina opened a little cleaning business, hiring other women like her. She trained them, protected them, empowered them. She refused to let them suffer in silence. Ibra got a government scholarship to study medicine. His sister pursued law. Amina walked them to their bus stations every term, waving with a smile, then going back home to pray that the money would be enough. She never remarried. Many men tried. Some offered money. Some promised comfort. But Amina always said the same thing. "I married once. That wound hasn't healed yet." One day, Ibra returned home for holidays. He found his mother sitting outside, peeling vegetables. "Mum," he said, kneeling beside her, "if you ever want to rest, say the word. I'll take care of everything." She smiled and touched his head. "My rest," she said gently, "is seeing you grow." Then, one early morning, his phone rang. A patient had been brought to the hospital where he had just started working. A critical case. Collapsed outside, weak, dirty, broken. When Ibra saw the man, his stomach twisted. He knew that face. He could never forget it. It was the man who left them. His father. He didn't call his mother. Not yet. He needed time. But that night, Amina, alone in her house, felt something shift in her chest. A strange ache. Not pain, just a tightness. She looked out the window into the stars and whispered, "God, whatever it is, help me forgive." Even without an apology. And miles away, in a cold hospital room, a broken man wept into a pillow, wishing he could take back time. Honorable Celine Yang was trending for all the wrong reasons. The same woman who once stood on stages commanding crowds with her velvet voice, the same woman who wore designer heels and shut down airports just by arriving, was now plastered across news headlines for embezzlement, spiritual fraud, and human endangerment. It started with a leaked video. A former house help, trembling and anonymous, had recorded a shaky clip of a shrine hidden behind Celine's office. Candles, animal bones, jars of thick red liquid, and disturbing images of men, including Musa, pinned with strange symbols. The woman claimed those who worked closely with Celine often got mysteriously sick or disappeared. The clip went viral in hours. From that moment, everything collapsed. Her fellow politicians distanced themselves. Her lawyer resigned. Her bank accounts were frozen. Protesters gathered outside her gate, chanting her name like a curse. And Musa, lying alone in a hospital bed, watched it all unfold on a tiny TV mounted on the ceiling of the ward. His hand shook as he saw her face. That same woman who once called him my lion. The woman he left his entire family for. The woman who once kissed him after press conferences, held his hand in secret and told him, "Stick with me and you'll never suffer." Now she was the face of scandal. Musa closed his eyes. He didn't feel joy. He didn't feel relief. He just felt empty. Every piece of the life he traded for her had shattered. And now even she was gone. By the end of the week, Celine had been arrested. Photos of her in handcuffs flooded the internet. Her face was swollen. Her wig tilted. Her makeup smudged. Her eyes looked scared. Nothing like the fearless queen she had once been. Ibra walked into the hospital that same afternoon with a quiet step. His face looked tired, but his eyes were calm. He checked Musa's chart, adjusted the foredrip, and sat down beside the bed. For a long time there was silence. Then Musa spoke. "She's finished, isn't she?" Ibra didn't answer directly. He just nodded. "I thought I was special to her," Musa whispered. "I thought I mattered." Ibra folded his arms, then said softly, "Mum never needed to use charms to feed us. She never sacrificed anyone to give us a life. She just worked and prayed." Musa turned away. He couldn't face the shame in those words. "I can't undo what I did," he said, voice breaking. "I abandoned you. I betrayed your mother. And now I'm here dying like a dog." Ibra took a deep breath. "You're not dying like a dog," he said. "You're dying like a man who made his choice and lived long enough to feel it." Musa closed his eyes. The truth burned deeper than the sickness in his bones. "I don't expect forgiveness," he murmured. "You're not getting it," Ibra replied without anger. "But you're getting dignity. Because Mum raised me to be better." He stood up to leave. But before he could walk away, Musa asked one last question. Does she ever talk about me?" Ibra paused at the door. "She never insulted you," he said. "She just cried when she thought we were sleeping." And then he was gone. That night, Musa dreamt of Amina for the first time in years. She was sitting under a mango tree, singing softly, holding a baby on her lap. He tried to call her, but no sound came. He reached for her, but his hands were too heavy. He woke up crying. The following week, the doctors said he was stable, but still weak. He could be discharged if someone came to take him home. But no one came. Not a single soul. And that, more than anything else, broke him. Because in the end, there was no mansion waiting. No politician to protect him. No family rushing to his side. Just 4 cracked walls, a rusted bed frame, and the quiet whisper of his own breath growing slower by the day. The day Musa died, the sky didn't weep. There was no storm. No drama. Just a still, silent Nairobi morning, the kind where birds chirped like everything was fine and potatoes honked like they didn't care someone had taken their last breath just minutes earlier. He died quietly. Alone. On a Wednesday morning at 6:42 a.m., his frail chest rising one last time before it gave up. The nurse on duty didn't even realize until she came to change his drip and found his body already cold. His name was scribbled into a death register with 27 others. No family. No friend. No visitor had come to claim him. But before his final breath, just minutes before his soul slipped into silence, Musa had whispered 3 words to no one in particular. "Tell my children." He didn't finish the sentence. But maybe he didn't have to. Hours later, Ibra stood outside the morgue, looking through the frosted glass. His arms were stiff. His jaw clenched. He hadn't cried. Not even once. And yet, something inside him felt like it was cracking into pieces. He had tried. He had done what any decent son would have done. He'd paid the hospital bills, arranged for decent care, and even told the staff not to throw his father's body into the city's mass grave for unclaimed corpses. But he couldn't bring himself to call his mother. He didn't want to reopen her wounds. He went home that evening, walked into the quiet living room, and found her boiling water for tea. She didn't ask any questions. She just looked at his face and saw the answer. "I know," she whispered. He nodded and sat down. A long silence passed between them, the steam from the kettle rising like ghosts in the air. Then she said, "God saw it all. That's enough for me." He looked at her hands, still strong, still working, still mothering even when life had failed her so many times. "Mum," he said softly, "he wanted us to know something." But he didn't finish the words. She didn't flinch, just smiled sadly and poured him some tea. "Sometimes," she said, "the apology we deserve comes too late. But we accept peace instead." They drank quietly. No more words were needed. 3 days later, Ibra paid for a small burial site on the edge of town. Nothing grand. Just a simple spot near a hill where birds could sing and wind could blow. He bought a cheap coffin and arranged a private burial. No one else came. No politician. No friend. No long-lost relative. Just a man in the soil and the son who survived him. As the gravedigger shoveled the last load of dirt, Ibra stood still, then pulled something from his pocket, a folded paper, yellowed with age. It was a school report card from primary school. His name at the top. His handwriting crooked. And beside the grades, a note he once wrote when he was 10. "I will be a doctor and take care of Mummy and Daddy when they're old." He placed the paper on the grave and whispered, "I kept half my promise." Then he turned and walked away. Days turned into weeks. The news of Celine's arrest died down. Other scandals rose to take her place. The city kept moving. Life didn't wait. But in a quiet corner of that same city, Amina's cleaning company grew. She hired more women. She trained them not just in scrubbing floors, but in believing in themselves. Her daughter passed the bar exam and began working with a nonprofit that defended domestic workers. And Ibra? He became one of the most respected young doctors in the country. Not just for his skill, but for the way he treated every patient with dignity, no matter how broken they were. Every Sunday he called his mum. Every birthday he took her out. Every Mother's Day he bought her pink roses, the ones she loved but never got to enjoy during the hard years. And though they rarely spoke about Musa, sometimes when the sun set a certain way or when the sound of an engine echoed in the distance, Amina would pause and close her eyes. Not in anger, not in pain, but in release. Because even though he left her with nothing, she had raised everything. This story teaches that loyalty to family is greater than temporary pleasure. True strength is found in those who suffer silently and keep pushing. Forgiveness isn't always spoken, but healing can still happen. You may not live long enough to apologize, but those you hurt may still grow beyond your failure. It's a powerful reminder that what you abandon today might become the very thing you'll need tomorrow. And that love built through struggle is stronger than love offered through luxury.